Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Bundesliga show. We are here for some fantasy football action on a Friday morning. Very happy to be joined by Rune once more after your retreat for other very exciting business. Welcome back, Rune. You were ably covered by Ultan, but it's lovely to have you back. How was your week? And maybe you can half tell everyone what you've been up to.
Yeah, thank you. Good to be back. I spent some days in Leipzig, went to 2 Bundesliga games over there, and did some mixed zone interviews after the games. And we also had interview sessions with some of the people in charge at Leipzig and at Red Bull, including Jürgen Klopp and Marcel Schäfer, the head of sports over there. So I've got a lot of cool experiences and got to do some interesting interviews. And I've spent a lot of time writing articles since returning. Already did so while I was there too. So a lot of interesting stuff, I think, out on Bullet News now, based on the trip and based on the interviews over there.
Lovely stuff. Well, yeah, there's been some excellent content as per, and look forward to seeing more of it. We're here obviously for fantasy this morning. Great to see a couple of people already in the chat. There's been a couple of things asked on socials as well. So big show ahead. Rune as per has produced the goods for us. So we will crack on with the show. I wonder if Jürgen Klopp and co are big fantasy football players. Maybe we should have told
I forgot to ask him that question, man.
maybe he'll be a watcher of the show now. Who knows? Lovely stuff. Morning to you, Pedro. Thanks for checking in. Lovely to see you watching live, which is awesome. So hope you enjoy the show, as well as good morning to Broody. Able to join on the live show, which is awesome. So lovely to see you both in and everyone else that's tuning in. So make sure you sit back, enjoy with us, and get those questions popping and ready to go. Also, if you can like the comments, like the show. And drop your comments in and sub to the channel. Right, without any further delay, we'll get stuck into things. Just before we go into defenders, Rune, we did have a question from friend of the show, FPL Swans, and this was focused around goalkeepers. So I think we'll just start with goalkeepers because obviously it makes sense chronologically. So his question was, I know you don't usually cover goalkeepers in the regular show, but I currently have Bats and Kua Santos. Any word when Zentner will be back, and if Santos will remain as number one, all the goals they're shipping. Interesting question there. I mean, the Frankfurt goalkeeper rotation has been one to follow quite a lot this season. Not one person trusted more than the other, I think, at the moment. It's a bit of a lottery, those two. But any word on Zentner and the likelihood of Frankfurt sticking with Santos?
With regards to Zentner, I think he'll still need some time, probably, at least one more week, maybe even 2 weeks. No real word on him. I remember heading into the year, he was back in individual training as far as I remember. So I think he's going to step up his working load from week to week, and then we'll probably just take a bit more time. And also Bats has done really well, I think. So I think Wes Fischer has a different decision to make. I know Zentner has been super important for them for quite some time now, but at the moment he has a really solid option in goal at the moment that he doesn't really have any reason to take out, except the fact that obviously Zentner plays a huge role in the team. So wouldn't worry about keeping Bats for now, but surely worth keeping an eye on that situation. And as for Kua Santos, probably not the best goalkeeper to have at the moment. I actually rate him in terms of his reflexes on the line are extraordinary when he's at his best, and he's also proven that at times. But his decision making at the moment seems to be a bit off. Seems to be suffering from a lack of confidence, and the communication with the fence is just not working at the moment. So, I mean, they were in a similar situation in October and decided to give Cederer some games in goal, and then they went back and gave Kawa another chance now from the start of the year. So to take him out again, I mean, wouldn't be a good look for them. So I think they probably also need to be patient with him, but at the same time, obviously, can't keep conceding 3 goals at least per game. Then something needs to change. But yeah, at the moment, looks like he'll start at the weekend. At least previously, when they've done changes in goal, they've actually been quite communicative about it before the game and announced it that okay, there will be a change this week. So hopefully, if that happens again, if they choose to put Cederer back in goal, then we'll know. We'll get some info from a press conference.
Indeed. Lovely stuff. Good way to just quickly siphon off some keeper options there. On screen for all you lovely people now are the defender picks that Rune has gone for this week. So back over to yourself, sir, to go through your budget, mid-price, and premium.
Thank you. Starting off with a true budget pick, Bundesliga from Leipzig, who's available at 2.2 million. And yeah, I just wanted to mention him because Lukeba is ruled out, and Bundesliga was described as the logical replacement for him by Ole Werner, the Leipzig coach, at the pre-match press conference. So yeah, he'll most likely get the start, and is available at a very low price for what will be a very favorable matchup for Leipzig against Heidenheim. They'll surely be looking to bounce back there from the heavy defeat against Bayern. And I actually think Leipzig looked really good in the first half in that game. Should probably have been more than 1 goal up. And unfortunately for them, at least, Bayern stepped up their game after the break and were really clinical. Nevertheless, I think Leipzig played some good football, and they have a quite favorable matchup now, and also a good schedule a little further down the road. So I think at that price, although I'm not expecting a huge point return, I think around 150 points maybe is realistic, maybe even 200. So I think for that price, I think he's a good shout if you need a budget defender. My mid-price pick is Hiroki Ito from Bayern, who I'm quite confident will start this time. He started 2 games in a row, and then he began on the bench for Bayern's win in the Champions League the other night. And that probably means he'll be back in the starting lineup at the weekend, especially because Stanisic and Laimer are still sidelined. Fonso Davies probably still needs some time to get back to his best before he's in a condition to start. So he should be pretty nailed on to start at left back for the home game against Augsburg, which is obviously pretty much all matchups at the moment are favorable from Bayern's perspective, but this is a really good one at home against their local rivals even. And his price is quite low for a starting defender for Bayern. His ownership is 0%. So low cost option for a great matchup for Bayern, and a player that I'm quite certain will be given the nod at left back. And then finally, a player that I think you probably need to have at the moment with Leipzig's schedule in consideration, David Raum has the second highest total points in the game in terms of defenders, behind only Alex Grimaldo. And they're playing Heidenheim now, and then they're actually playing St. Pauli, but Raum has already been given points for that game, and then they're playing Mainz and Köln. So a really solid schedule, and just an overall great option to have at the back, really involved going forward, swinging in crosses, and also winning a decent amount of duels. So just a really consistent option with a high ceiling too.
Yeah, absolutely. Some good picks in there. Nice to see Hiroki Ito getting some game time, albeit painful that from a Stuttgart point of view he's playing for Bayern. But yeah, it's definitely he's a player with high potential and quality. So it's no surprise to see him now fit, getting some game time with the record champions. Lovely stuff. Any questions around defenders, do get them in, whether it's live or if you are watching this subsequently, we'll take what we can. But just going to pick up a comment that friend of the show again and regular viewer Saad has put in. So good morning to you, pal. This is something that you asked last week, but thank you for reminding me about the points that you're raising here. So just saying that, around budget allocated is relatively easy to own most, if not all, big hitters in the game. Little room to be different than others, and kind of just picking up on that in terms of maybe points where the game can improve overall, Rune. Something that obviously we try to provide. You provide obviously the differential picks and those budget picks to maybe mitigate and allow us to get those big higher end players in. But do you think there's something around the budget that could be shifted for the game to make it harder in a sense? I guess I don't know if other players feel the same as what Saad's saying, but I imagine it's a good point to raise. And is it something that you think might be considered in the future? We've obviously got a lot of those premium assets in the game are getting more expensive because we don't have a static price anymore. So if you don't have Kane or Elise in, it is slightly more expensive than it was at the start of the season. What do you think to Saad's point?
Yeah, I think that's a very fair point to make. I've thought the same, actually. The fact that you can basically just have the template picks in your team at this stage is a bit boring in a sense, because an element that I really like to the game is picking those differentials, seeing those players that others maybe don't see. So I think, combination of the prices changing, so that if you own a player at the right time, you can sell him on and make a huge profit, and then spend that money on someone else. That's something that you can really take advantage of this season, because players can easily explode in terms of value if they're doing well for a few games. But then on the other hand, if you don't have those players like Ulisse and Kane from the start, then you're in a bit of trouble, because it will be more difficult to bring them in. But I definitely agree with Saad. There's the incentive to pick differentials at the moment is not the greatest, I think, because it's always a risk, and if you have the funds for all the big hitters, then why should you? Especially if you're in a great position in the game in terms of rank, then it doesn't really make sense. So that's definitely something to consider there. Also, of course, the daily bonus thing also given players a bit more space in the budget. Maybe that's been a bit too much, and they need to adjust it just to lower the extra funds the players get from logging in every day. That would also be something to consider maybe for next season.
Yeah, I mean, or go the complete opposite way. For every day that you don't log into the app, that you lose budget or something like that. Interesting point. I think, like you say, it's definitely something for the game makers to think on a little bit. FPL Swan's also saying, good point made by Saad. With the big budget, I feel less likely to bother with a fun budget player as can afford premium anyway. And I think, to that case in point is, why bother with the budgets if you're in a good position from a league table stance? I get that comes into play when you need to catch up and you need a differential to perform and jump you up above the others who have gone down the line of the obvious. So it's an interesting one. for sure, and different things that we can suggest in this community, and things that hopefully would be thought of in the future. Sard also saying, can there be a rule where you can't keep a player for more than 3 consecutive weeks? Maybe it's, I think things like that, it's just good to throw them out there, to be honest.
But I think that would make the game too complicated. They've also tried to make the game more appealing to casual players in recent years, because it used to be really complicated and demanding in terms of making substitutions during the weekend as well. And I think something like this, although I get why you're suggesting it, would probably scare off some players, because then you need to really look far into the fixture list when you're trying to plan your squad. But yeah, surely worth bringing up ideas, because I think there's room for improvement when it comes to this.
Yeah, 100%. All changes that are made are sometimes met with intrigue or annoyed by certain changes, but I think something around budget can certainly be something that they address this season. We will see. Maybe they're listening to us. Hopefully they are. If we can keep on pushing the dial, then who knows? But yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Sard. And hopefully we can get a bit of thought and attention there, and food for thought for everyone. Indeed. Lovely stuff. Just want to pick up a question from FPL Swans on defenders, which is thoughts on Mittelstadt minutes the next couple, as he tends to get rested around European games. Obviously a big game for VFB last night, which he was he rested? Because I know Hendricks started left back, didn't he? I didn't get to watch much of the game actually, because I was out last night. Let's just double check for.
He did play as a wing back.
He played as a wing back, right? He played in front of Hendricks. Okay. In that case, Rune. Yeah, there is opportunity. Hernandez is definitely not shy to rotate after European games. We've seen him do big rotation. So yeah, there's always that risk, I think. But also after a couple of unfortunate results for VFB, the draw and the loss midweek, they'll want to get back on the horse against Gladbach. So they need to go as strong as possible, really. What do you think to rotation?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he'll rotate a bit. The question is who will be taking out, and Mittelstadt is a rotation risk. He would be great to own for that game, because it's a game I really back Stuttgart to win. I think Gladbach have looked quite poor recently, and I think Stuttgart will bounce back there. So if you want Mittelstadt, I think probably a good idea to go with 3 at the back. So even if he doesn't start, then you have him on the bench and then another bench option. But obviously for the price, he's an expensive player to have if he doesn't start. So yeah, definitely worth considering. He has been rotated out a few times around European games. That's right. So wouldn't be surprised if he's taking out of the starting lineup.
Yeah, certainly comes with risk. So on your head, be it FPL Swans, it's a risk, but it could well pay off. Rudy also just saying around what we've just been talking about, the most easy way would be to get back to a static budget and prices. This way, the season would be exciting from beginning to end. Yeah, another theory, another thought.
I don't think so, because I think the problem was actually the same with static budgets, because people could get the same teams, and they could just copy the top teams, and even back then I think a lot of people ended up with the same players. And also I kind of like the fact that you're rewarded from picking a player before most other people, for example, that his value actually increases. That side to the game, I think, is actually cool. It just needs to be done in the right way. And yeah, it is actually, it's difficult, and the balance needs to be there, and I don't think they've quite found it yet.
Not quite. I agree in the fact that when it was static, when you found those breakout players, obviously they were just cheap for the whole season, and there was
exactly.
no reward. But exactly as Brody says, pros and cons to both. We live and change with the game itself, but we enjoy it just as much, and hence why we're doing this show. And then another one from FPL Swans, maybe when you sell the player, you get half the profit, like in FPL. More theories. Look, it's all welcome at the end of the day. Change always keeps us on our toes as producers of this sort of content, and trying to keep on top of it all. Rule changes a lot, so I don't think they'll make any major tweaks before the end of the season. But obviously for next season, we'll see. But they're not afraid to do it either. Lovely stuff. Right, moving on to our midfielder picks then. So they are on screen for you all to have a little look at, and Rune, for you to do a bit of explanation as well.
Yeah. Budget pick is Chris Führig from Stuttgart, coming off back-to-back returns of over 200 points. And as I said just before, this is a game I expect Stuttgart to win. Gladbach have really struggled lately. Nicolas was forced to making a lot of saves against the HSV. That was a special game, fantasy-wise. I don't think I've ever seen a goalkeeper pick up that many points from saves made. Anyway, I think also because Führig's price is so low, he's a really tempting option if you need a budget option, because of what he's capable of delivering. Mid-price pick is Christoph Baumgartner, another standout Leipzig asset. His start to the year hasn't been that good, but he has a really good run of fixtures coming up now, so it should be a good opportunity for him to return to form. And he's already on 6 goals and 7 assists in the Bundesliga this season, which is really, really good, actually. The question is, which 3 Leipzig players do you get this week? For me, at least, that's the question. And I think, if you need a midfielder, then it's definitely Baumgartner. And finally, my premium pick, Nadim Amiri from Mainz. Unfortunately, he was out against Köln due to illness. So I think a lot of people hopefully got the info about his illness and managed to take him out before the game. That's probably why his ownership is down to 13% at the moment, because that's quite low for an option like him, I think. And he proved in the first 2 games of the year what he's capable of. Got some really good returns in both of those games. Scored a few goals, and Mainz are now playing Wolfsburg at home. Would probably be a close match, but I think it's the sort of game that Mainz should be targeting a win in. And as always, Amiri will be instrumental for them going forward, creating chances and taking set pieces and all that.
Yep, absolutely. Some good picks in there. Obviously Führig, absolutely budget. And when I picked him up last week, he was even cheaper than that. He's around three-ish, wasn't he? So just crazy numbers for a player that's got such a high ceiling. Obviously he played 70 minutes last night, but has got himself back in favour. So again, I guess rotation-wise, we're thinking. I mean, Hoeneß can do anything, because as we know, he's quite open to doing mass changes. But I'd like to think that Führig would probably get a go again.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, Bonani could come in to replace either Lieveling or Führig, I think. Wouldn't you say? If he was to make a change on the wings, I guess that could be an option, but it's not like they have a lot of alternatives at the moment. Nati was left out didn't play, he was left out of the squad. So he'll almost certainly start in the central attacking role, I think. Then I have the El Canous coming back, but probably unlikely to start just yet. Maybe he'll do so next week because I read he'll only return to Stuttgart today. So obviously he's a guy to keep an eye on as well. But I think Buonanni would maybe be the main alternative on the wings. Wouldn't you say so?
I would say so. I just don't know how much he's trusted in the sense of getting all those starts. But obviously rotation has to come, and he does have to get his chance. I've been impressed by him when I've seen him. But I he's obviously clearly not in the front echelons of those starting places yet. But when it's rotated, he should get a chance for sure. Agree with Baumgartner, especially when Baumgartner plays against teams that Leipzig should beat. I think you said it a few weeks ago as well, Rune. When Baumgartner plays against the Bayerns, the Dortmunds, whoever, the bigger teams, he goes missing for me from a points perspective and just from a playing perspective. So against Heidenheim, it's an ideal one for him to play and get points from for sure. Lovely stuff. Question in from Sard. Very relevant one. When is it time to be wary of the returning Jamal Musiala, who obviously got an assist off the bench for his very short spell last week against Leipzig, setting up Elise for his goal. I think that was the 6th goal. He can't be far off getting the nods. Obviously, he has to work his way back into regular football. The first touch, getting used to everything else. But he is a natural talent. He's got a lot of competition now as well. So very good question. I think that from Sard, Rune. When do you think it's time for fantasy players to start really considering him?
Yeah, good question. Probably in a few weeks. Bayern are clearly being, and understandably being, very careful with Musiala. They don't want to rush him back and see him suffer a setback. So for now, I think that the plan is to increase his minutes off the bench and give him gradually more minutes from game to game. But in a few weeks' time, it will be really interesting to see what role he plays there. His best position is probably the central attacking role that Lennart Karl and Serge Gnabry are currently competing to start in. So suddenly they have 3 players for that role. Karl can also play on the right, of course, and Gnabry can also play on the left. So that gives them a bit more flexibility and could also lead to Ulisse and Diaz getting more breaks. We already saw Ulisse getting a break against Leipzig, actually. So good thing for Bayern, but from a fantasy perspective, it makes things a bit more unpredictable, unfortunately.
It does. And then even dropping Kane into the 10 and letting Jackson start up front for when they need to, need to do that as well. Some silly options, really. Lovely stuff. On the topic of Bayern, I know FPL Swans, you also made a comment on socials about their assets. So how do you think it will be with the big 3 of Musiala, Gnabry, and Karl? In terms of playing minutes, even with Jackson going for it. I think so hopefully we've kind of half answered that already. With the options available to Bayern, it's obviously just going to be a case of keeping an eye on what Vincent Kompany says week to week, rotation, who starts, who gets the most minutes in Champions League and Pokal, etc. for our Bundesliga picks, I think, isn't it? It's just going to be a case of trying to watch them as closely as possible.
Yeah, exactly that. I think Ulisse and Diaz and Kane should still be pretty nailed on starters most weeks. But obviously, if you have another alternative in Musiala and Gnabry and Karl and Jackson as well as alternatives, then I think it's likely that they'll be rotated out more frequently than in the first half of the season.
Precisely. Lovely stuff. I think we've got everything covered there. So we will move on to striker picks. Here we go. On screen now. Back over to you, Rune.
Yep, thank you. Starting off with Philipp Tietz as my budget pick. Philipp Tietz from Mainz, who I think he's done quite well fantasy-wise since joining from Augsburg on loan, especially for his price. He actually has 2 returns above 200 points in a row now, even though he hasn't scored. So yeah, that also shows how important winning duels is. For example, Teats is like the type of player who likes to go into duels. And yeah, I think as we talked about earlier, it is a game that I think Mainz will be targeting a win in at home against Wolfsburg. And for that price, I think he's a solid budget striker, especially because he has that side to his game with duels. Duels one that means that he can still do quite well even if he doesn't get on the score sheet. And then my mid-price pick is Patrick Schick from Leverkusen. His ownership is quite low. His price is also quite low at the moment. And yeah, obviously Leverkusen have had a poor start to the year. They've lost 3 games in a row, if you include the Champions League loss as well, which was very disappointing. But at some point, you feel they have to bounce back, and I think this week's home game against Werder could be that sort of game. Haven't been super impressed by Werder, especially not their defending in recent weeks. They've conceded 3 goals in each of the last 2 games. So yeah, that's good news for a player like Patrick Schick, who is the focal point of Leverkusen's attack. Has had a lot of goal involvements already this season, and I think he should have a good chance of adding to that tally at home against Werder. And then finally, wanted to mention Romelu from Leipzig, who's actually one of the players I got the chance to talk to over there in the mix zone after the Bayern game, where he was obviously very disappointed with the result. But yeah, he actually scored in that game, also scored in the previous one against Freiburg. So 2 games in a row where he's gotten on the score sheet. And yeah, I think it's tied between him and Diomande in terms of who you pick from Leipzig. A lot of people will probably be going with Diomande, who's the more popular option, and fair enough if you do so, because he's been outstanding. But I just wanted to mention Romelu as an alternative, who's more of a differential pick, and he's actually playing up front, probably has a bigger chance of scoring. And I know Diomande scored a hat-trick before the winter break, but I think Romelu is probably still more likely to get 2 or 3 goals in a game, given that he's playing up front, and he is the guy that the others are creating chances for. Really intelligent player in the box. So a great option, I think, for the price, a good alternative to Diomande. Perhaps you could even fit them both in up front. Obviously, that means that you need to take out either Baumgartner or Raum. So that's I think that's a tough one for me. As I mentioned earlier, which 3 Leipzig assets to pick, because picking both Romelu and Diomande is actually a viable option too, I think, up front.
Yeah, 100%. I think for the 3 picks, Leipzig-wise, if I was to go with the 2 up top, I think I'd probably take out Baumgartner, because I have less faith in him at the moment, just my own kind of preference player-wise, but although I do like the player. Thank you for those, Rune. Lovely stuff. Couple of comments here. First one from Broody. Are we sure the Diaz will start? According to some portals where the lineups are predicted, he is listed as a potential rotating player. Therefore, I'm thinking about dropping him for 1 week. Yeah, obviously we know that this can absolutely happen. It's good to check different sources. Rune, Diaz is one of those players that is rotated fewer, I guess, than some of some players. He goes and goes and goes. But what do we think on Brody's comment there in terms of 3 different sources saying that he could be a rotation risk?
Yeah, I agree. He is a rotation risk to some extent. He is a player capable of playing many games, and his fitness levels are incredible. But at the same time, Olise was just rested against Bayern. So yeah, he'll most likely start this time. So if one of the attacking players, one of those three, Kane, Olise, and Diaz, is getting rotated out, is probably Diaz. So that is a bit of a risk, I think. They could. The two alternatives basically are Lennart Karl and Guerreiro, because either Karl or Guerreiro could play in the central role, and then Gnabry could play on the left. I think that would be, if he gets a break, that would be the way to do it from Bayern's perspective, because Musiala is not ready to start yet. I mean, Davies is not ready to start either. He could play at the left wing role in principle, but he's not ready yet. So probably that would be what you'd do. And Karl has played a lot of minutes recently as well, and hasn't been doing that well, I think. Probably, not quite lived up to the level he showed earlier in the season. So I think he'll get a break this time. Realistically, that's how I see it. And then it's between. Sometimes Company has opted to play Guerreiro in the central attack midfield role. He could do that and then start Gnabry on the left. I could see that happening. But at the same time, Diaz is a player capable of getting a lot of minutes. Only rarely gets a break. So difficult to predict. I'm not sure he'll start. I can't know for sure. But that is, what I think. And if you still want to keep him and bet on he starts, then you can play 4-4-2, for example, with Romelu and Diomande alongside Kane, because then if he doesn't start, not much of a big deal. You have two other really, really good options that I feel really confident in, and then he'll be able to come in if he starts. Otherwise, of course, you could sell him and get two Leipzig assets, for example, get Romelu and Diomande and play with three up front. That would be the alternative. Yeah,
very much so. But also looking ahead, Champions League again, which means that there will be more rotation. But the Champions League's done for them. They've qualified for the top 8. That game midweek holds no meaning for them. So surely, if you're going to rotate, you would just do it on Wednesday or whatever day they're playing, and go hard in a Bavarian derby as well, where Augsburg will be up for it. And then they have highest foul after that. So, I think, from a logical point of view, surely that's what you would do. But who knows? I think. So thank you for the question, Broody. One more here from FPL Swans. Is Rune worth putting the star on over Grimaldo under current form? I think that's a very good shout. Personally, Rune, what do you think?
Depends on whether you're in a position where you're willing to take a risk, because most people will probably start Grimaldo, and that hasn't maybe quite paid off so far this year, starting him because of Leverkusen's poor form. Now they have a really appealing home game against Werder, which is a good matchup for him. On the other hand, Raum has been incredibly consistent for Leipzig. He had that one game against Freiburg where he got an insane amount of points, I think 450 points or something like that. So he's certainly also capable of getting good return. So I think it's actually quite even between them this week. Grimaldo has that, I think, extra level fantasy-wise, because of the threat he poses from free kicks and all that. He's proven that so many times in the past. So in terms of getting an extraordinary return, I think he's probably more likely to get that. But at the same time, Raum is an excellent alternative. So just to sum up, if you want to take a bit of a risk, if you are in a position where you need to gain rank, I think that could be a risk worth taking, starting Raum, just to differentiate yourself from others. I think that could be a way to do it, just like picking Romelu over Diomande, for example, could be a way to set yourself apart.
Yeah, precisely that. Thank you for that question as well. FPL Swans, lovely stuff. That brings us to a close this morning. Thank you so much to everyone that's watched with us and got involved. Some really interesting and great to talk about the game itself and how we might change it and thoughts around that. So thank you to Sard and co for bringing that up and joining in the conversation and asking us about what we think. There's certainly lots to think about in that sense as well. So that's us. We'll be back on Monday to review everything from match week 19. So very much looking forward to that. Enjoy your weekends. Good luck to all you fantasy players out there. Hope you get great big hauls of points. Thank you, Rune, as per, for providing the expertise. And we will catch you next time. Cheers all.
Bye.